more on the flood situation, let's talk to our correspondent Shahryar Mirza, who is situated in Hyderabad at the moment. Shahryar, give us a wrap-up of the situation of floods in Sindh, especially in Hyderabad where you are.
Well, the latest situation is that over the last 5 to 6 days, we've seen a lot of the efforts focused on Badin, Tando Mohammed Khan and Mirpur Khas. Now what happened about early morning yesterday is that some flooding hit the Thatta district, within which 4 union councils crops were badly affected, the sugarcane crop, the rice crop, along with other vegetables. So from yesterday until this morning, according to the Navy, about 500 people have been rescued within those 4 union councils in Thatta. There's still some families which are trapped, and of course a lot of the crops are destroyed. So at the moment they're just trying to find homes for these 500 people who have been rescued, and trying to stem the damage from anything further happening. Now, as far as Badin is concerned, I spent some time in Badin, and basically yesterday their search and rescue operations had been completed. There's still a few 100,000 people who are internally displaced people in that area, a few 100,000 people in the rest of the districts within Tando Mohammed Khan, Mirpur Khas, Sangar, Umerkot. These areas have seen a lot of damage, not only to people but to crops. About 99% of the crops, they say, in Badin have been completely destroyed. So at the moment, while there isn't any massive flooding damage, it's basically the aftermath of the floods, trying to find a home for these people, trying to get the relief centers with enough goods so that they can sustain a sustained relief effort.
Well, Shahryar, do these relief and rescue efforts appear to be enough? Does the government and the army have the resources to rescue those stranded people? I believe 1 million people are marooned after these floods.
Well, again, that really is the million-dollar question. I've spoken to different DCOs. Of course, on camera, they will all say that they are getting enough from the government. But when I've spoken to many people who are involved in the district-level organization of these relief camps, they've said that, look, we just don't have enough resources, and enough resources aren't trickling down from the top. The relief centers I visited, especially one I visited yesterday, which nobody had really even come to provide them with anything. They were all just left to their own defenses within this basically a warehouse. Even they weren't able to sleep indoors within the warehouse. So there is a lot of this issue. There's people I've spoken to in the Navy have also told me that they're not able to get the kind of rations. They have everything set up. All they're waiting for is the rations to come to them, so they can distribute them to the people, which then also begs the question that where exactly is all this aid coming from? Are people only expecting the government to come up with this aid? There haven't really been private donors coming forward. We don't know of any real efforts being made by the Army or the Navy to try and collect donations to get them down to the very local level. So the DCOs are basically in charge, and the people who everyone is pointing fingers to really distribute the aid. But what some of the complaints seem to be is that we're not just getting enough aid, so we don't have enough to distribute. What we do have, that's all we can distribute.
And Shahryar, about 1 million people affected, but have there been any casualties as a result of these fresh floods?
Yes, there have been casualties. We haven't seen mass casualties as we've seen in some of the floods last year. But we know in different districts about 15 to 10 people in each district. The total of the last casualty count was about 52 people had been killed in floods in Sindh. And one other thing, there was a fear of a spread of disease. There is, of course, some diarrhea and a lot of skin diseases that have taken place, but luckily it hasn't spread. Spread on a massive scale. So they have been able to really prevent that sort of damage taking place in the relief centers and just on the streets where most of the people are sleeping.
Well, thanks very much for those details, Shahryar Mirza.